Joy.
Hi, how
Welcome
are
to
you?
the show.
Thank you very much.
We'll start by introducing your family and what you do for a living.
Okay, let me start by myself. My name is Dr. Joy Mueni. I am a PhD holder in communication. I work at Riera University, where I head the Department of Communication and Multimedia Journalism. And I have two girls. My first one is called Jan Zilan, and the second one is called Zara Lilan. So generally, Jan is 5 years, 5.2 there. She's in kindergarten in PP1, as they call it in the new curriculum, and she's a lovely, lovely girl. And there's Zara, who is her younger sister. Zara is just about 2 again, 2.2 also, who definitely is not at school. She's just here waiting to go to school, maybe in the next year or the year after, but yeah. So those are my two girls. Yeah.
Tell me about your journey to parenthood.
Okay, my journey to parenthood. Well, parenthood, mine was quite interesting, or so to say. So they're both adopted. I adopted each of them. You know, each has their own story. So maybe I could start with the older one's story. So Jan, I adopted Jan in 2013. I hope it's 2013. It's been a while. It's been 5 years. Yeah. So anyway, so 2013 is when Jan came home to be with me, and that was an interesting journey. It was my first time adopting. It was also the first time that I was a parent. So around that time, I'm one of those people who have plans, and for everything, I planned for everything. Ask me my 10-year, it's right, I'll have it. As to whether I achieve it or not, that's another story, but it's planned. So anyway, so I always knew by the time I hit 30, I'll be a mother. How it was defined was I'll have a family of my own. It was simply defined as that I'll have a family of my own. So 28 came, 29 came, 30 came, and I'm like, hey, no family. So I was, of course, quite disappointed in myself. But I now took it seriously. It's those things you write, because that was a vision I'd written when I was about 25. So now 5 years later, you're like, hey, there's something up with this goal. It's not been attained or achieved.
Were you dating then?
Oh, yes. I dated for a while in my about 28 and up to 28. After that, no. As in, it just wasn't for me, so to speak. To each their own. It wasn't for me. So I remember very well when 2013 started. I had just turned 30 or, I think 30. Actually 31. I turned 31. So I went and told mom, hey mom, you know what? I'm thinking of adopting. That was early in the year. My birthday is in January, so it was very early in the year. So I was telling her, hey mom, I'm thinking of adopting. And she was like, hey, why? You're too young. Just wait. Some guy will come along and yeah. Or rather think about it. And I was like, okay, no big deal. So for the next 6 months, I thought about it, and as I unpacked what a family was, it dawned on me. Some things are so obvious, but then sometimes they're not so obvious. When I'd written family, the question was, why had I not written that I'll be married, But I'd written I'll have a family. So there are many ways that people can have families. You can, the traditional, get married, get children, that's a family. Or get married, that's a family in itself. So for me, being a mother my children would be part of my family. And of course my extended family is there, but hey, I wanted my own, my own family. So it dawned on me during those 6 months that I could actually just be a mother. Now, there are various ways of being a single parent. Of course, there's the usual, the usual, hook up with some guy, get a kid. But as a Christian, that wasn't open to me. So then the options were very limited. So, thoughts of even thinking about IVF, I'm still to date not very sure what religion says about that. So anyway, and it's expensive. I was like, hey, please, let's chill a bit. And then adoption came up. I didn't know anybody who'd adopted. I didn't know much about adoption. It was those things, google.com, adoption. So no, really, that's how my journey started. Google.com adoption. Then there were many articles written on adoption, you know, the adoption agencies, and that's it. So when I could read, I read a lot. I do a lot of research. I mean, the nature of my job, I do a lot of research. So I read quite a bit, and the process was very clear to me, and it looked very visible and attainable to me. So I solidified my answer and agreed that was it. So then we went on, and I remember in June, I called Mom again for a meeting, a luncheon. I took her to a very nice place, you know, the ambience, and it all has to make sense, you know. So I'm like, hey, Mom, to break down the news, this is it, Mom. Now, you know, now I'm informing. It's not about, of course, you need the buy-in, because at the end of the day, believe me or not, a child belongs to the family, not just you, the parent, but to the extended family. They need their cousins, they need their aunties, they need all those people. So I told Mom, this is it. I am adopting a child, but I'll adopt next year. So she asked, why next year? Because I'd hoped to graduate in 2013 with my PhD. So saying I'll finish my PhD this year, then, you know, then next year I'll be free. So my mom asked me, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, this is it. She said, okay, so why are we waiting for next year? I'm like, hey, please, I need to finish this thing. This thing is huge. It also needs to be finished. And she said, that does not mean you can't get a child. If you want a child, you've decided tomorrow morning, because that was on a Sunday, let's go. Let's figure this thing out. And I was like, hey, wait. She's like, you've decided. Let's do this. That was it. The support that I needed, the blessings, the everything that you needed. So from literally the next morning, that was it. I went to, well, people commonly know it as Thomas Bernardo's, but it's called Kenya Children's Adoption Agency. That's the more formal name, but we all know it as Thomas Bernardo's. So I went there, inquired, and I can say the rest is history. So yeah, so that's how Jan came to me.
How long did the process take?
I applied in June. What happens is once you make your application, there are many things that take place. For instance, you apply, or rather, not really apply, you express your interest in adoption. So then they'll ask you a few questions, they'll do an interview, you know, just to find out that what you're doing is not as part of the moment that you've really thought about it. So there's a lot of documentation that you need to do. Little things like your medical history, for instance, who you are as a person. They'd want to be able to understand you and the family, the extended family that the child is coming into. It's good when a child, as I said, is accepted by everybody in the extended family, because it's very important for the psychology of the child, and even you as a parent, you need to know that you have the support of everybody else, and that they would actually respect and treat this child as they would one that I've given birth to. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of documentation. There's a lot of questions that you have to answer, get all those good conduct certificates, you know, really. But once that is all done, then you submit that, and then a committee that is called the case committee sits down, evaluate my everything, you know, who I am, my intentions, and all this. So once they evaluate that, they either agree or disagree that you can go ahead and adopt. Once they agree, then the rest is just for you to wait until when the general idea of the child you have is available. Now, let me unpack that for you. By law, as a single parent, for my first adoption, I can only adopt of my gender. Yeah, so if it's a girl, for instance, I'm a lady, so I can only adopt a girl. And this child has to be 21 years younger than I am. In that sense, that's the age difference. So then, I as a person, I have the opportunity, or I can I can request that I have a child of a certain age. For instance, do you want like about 3 months, which I think is the youngest that you can get, about 3 months, 4 months, 1 year, 3 years, really, because all these children are in our children charitable institutes. They're there. Yeah, so you just specify. So then it's a waiting game to see. So even if you go to, say, this adoption agencies by nature work with very many children homes. So they just contact their people, and then they tell you whether the child's available or not. Key to them also is a child that, that suits you in the sense of even physical structure, sometimes the color, because you don't want the child to be, just by instant identification, people can identify, oh, something else happened here, because it's important for the child to integrate. So they take a full photo, like head to toe. Can you imagine the last time you took such a photo? So head to toe. So they kind of compare, and either God or some miracle or experience of the social workers there, they kind of get children who look like you or resemble you, or at least as far as my friends and people tell me that my kids really do look like me. So then one day you're called and told, hey, come, we found baby X. So you go, you meet baby X, you say yes or no. Generally, you like the baby? Yes, you go home with the baby. So in my case, it was very clear. So that whole process took about 3-4 months, about 4 months, because she came home end of September. And by that time, she was just shy of 4 months. Yeah, she was just getting to 4 months.
How was the adjustment period? Are you the last one in your family?
No, I'm the first one.
Oh, you're the first one, so you had other siblings to take care of. But how was that adjustment, having a newborn? A newborn, 4 months.
It's crazy. First, I had never had a live-in house help. Never.
Used to your own space.
I was used to my own space. So the first thing you're told, so when you're called, you're given about, in that case, every children's home has its own specifications, but that home, 4 days. So I have like 4 to 5 days, 4 to 1 week to go home with the baby. So it's to start running around, getting leave from work, trying to, because adoptive leave is not in law, so to speak. The labor laws do not exactly, right now we are debating it, but as is, it's not by law. So you need to get leave, you need to get a nanny, you need to buy clothes, buy stuff, you need to do quite a bit of stuff. So it was very hectic. Then after that, the baby comes home. Now you're like, okay, next. And I don't know, people think that it's automatic to take care of a baby, but what I did was, the days that I was at the children's home, when I was there, I took advantage. I told them, show me, how do you wash babies? They showed me. How do you feed babies? They showed me. And anyway, they were very helpful. So for me, that's how I learned. But then also my mom, appeared. My mom, my sis, they all just right there. Yeah, indeed. And my sister has experience because she had a baby. So she has the experience. So you're like, wait, what's happening? How do you do this thing? So they were very helpful. And anyway, it's a very quick learning curve. You learn almost instantly what to do, because really the baby fully and wholly depends on you. So for me, it didn't take long.
And the bonding?
Oh, the bonding was, I think, very easy. I am a believer. So I keep on saying that if I ask it of God that this child we need to bond, He will give it to. He does it. So for me, the bonding was not difficult. It was easy. And the other advantage was the child was young, only 4 months. What really do they know? Not much. So anyway, and I was there. I was their constant caregiver. Because children, to have effective bonding, all you need to do is just provide for their basic needs. Feed them and change them and, lull them to sleep, and the basics really, and they'll connect to you. So for me, that's how we connected.
You're named after your mom?
Oh yes, she's named after a swaggerized version of my mom. My mom is called Janet Nzilani. So we sat with her and you're like, I'm not calling a child Nzilani. Like, really? It's so, So we just said Zilan. Really, that's just removing, I think, the first letter N. Then the rest is just Zilan, Zilan. And it's a very unique name. And even more when now you look into the Arabic cultures and all those other cultures, it has all those nice meanings, like Jan is a blessing, a gift, and when you went for it, you're just like Janet, Jan, that's enough, yeah. And anyway, also my sister has also named her daughter after our mom, so she's called Jeanette. So you're like, it's also Janet, so we're like, we're going right there with you, right there, following in your footsteps. Yeah.
Tell me about Jan's character.
Jan, she's... I keep saying this. Let me explain that in a long way. One of the scriptures that, people learn scripture, John 3:16. Yeah, we learned it, but one of my very first scriptures to learn, amazingly, was Matthew 3:17. And that is when it was talking about when Jesus was being baptized by John the Baptist. Then a dove came from heaven and God was saying, that this is my son in whom I love, in whom I'm well pleased with. I understand what God meant. I understand it fully. Because my two girls, gosh, I love them. I am well pleased with them. Jan, she's very sporty. She can run a mile, like I tell you. She's very athletic and she's very, very helpful. I have taught a lot of girly things, you know, like all the cooking, the cleaning, and, you know, she does very many house chores, you know. She's very responsible. She can roll chapatis and...
Oh, wow.
Very impressive. She can roll up to 10 chapatis and I'm like, wow. And the thing is, she finds it fun. You know, like me, it's work. For her, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun times. Yeah, but she's also very sporty. She likes all this bikes and, you know, just like a usual child, as you'd say. She also has a very good eye for detail. In her coloring it's quite impressive. She's still like, I know all kids can color, but then there's coloring and then there's coloring.
Within the lines.
Yes, within the lines, and the color coordination is quite amazing. I'm also very artistic, so maybe she's also just, you know, kids do what they see you doing. So I do a lot of art, you know, bottles like this, you know, stuff like that. So we get to spend a lot of time doing that. So maybe when I'm doing this, she's right there with her colors and we're trying to do stuff together. So yes.
How was the first time she called you mama?
Oh.
Did you cry?
No, I didn't cry.
Tell everybody.
I didn't cry. I didn't cry, but it's special. It's very special because when she came to me at just about 4 months, you can imagine at that point they're not speaking, they're not sitting, but you raise them up to be who they are today, to be able to speak and to identify you and call you mom and love you unreservedly. It's special. I must say that.
At what point did you say, no, she needs a sister? Let's start the journey all
over again. At what point? It was not very automatic. I never thought I would have a second child. Let me start with that. I never, ever thought. But then, you know, as time goes by, you're like, you know, the mother bag, you know, the mother, the feeling. Yes. I need another child. Am I sure? Okay, where is this going to, you know? Then one day I said, actually, Jan had turned 3, not 3, she was about 2.5. It was like, now, if this is to happen, it needs to happen quick. Again, you know, clearly by 35, if you're having children, just get over and done with it. So again, my own age was it's clear. I mean, I'm a believer in respecting nature, you know, just... Whereas I'm not giving birth to the children, but I do need the strength, there are issues to do with finances later on, just the whole cycle. So for me, again, I thought, if I'm getting a second child, let's just do it. So I wanted a second child, but at that time, adoption had been suspended. There was a moratorium on local and international adoptions. So we are those people who are praying, Lord, open the adoption process. Lord, what's happening? So the day that they opened, the children home that the adoption agency had used first, the KCH, Kenya Children's Adoption Agency, were among the last. So I was not patient enough, so I went to a different adoption agency. And truth be told, that was a mistake. I didn't like the experience there, but the experience at KCH was flawless, and it was my first one. So the second one, of course, you expect it even to be much easier because then there is the experience, but it was terrible, and it took longer than expected. But it still came to an end, and my second child, Zara, came home when she was exactly 6 months. Like she turned 6 months today, tomorrow she was in the house. So yes, so that was also very special to us. When we were matched with her, myself and Jan would go visit her. We had very many Sunday, you know, church to see Zara. Then we'd stay there, and you know, and Jan kept on insisting, why isn't my sister coming home? You know,
she cried to her sister.
Yes, you know, that's how you introduce her. This is your sister, Zara. So she's like, but why is she here? Like, one day she's coming home, you just wait. But now her waiting was taking rather long, so Jan was getting impatient. But anyway, everything comes to an end. So one day Zara came home, and Jan was, I think she was the happiest of them all. We were happy. We had an addition to the family. Again, adjustments. Little things like Jan was the only child, now there's somebody else. So a lot of regression, by the way, which was annoying, if nothing else. You're like, what? How? I mean, really, regression. So there's a lot of regression. Jan regressed quite a bit, but it just took about 2 months and she was back on board, you know, back to her old ways, you know, being the older sister and all. Yeah, but Zara came, she adjusted very well. Now it's been almost, what, 1.5 years? She's 2. She's over 2 now. Yeah.
Tell me about her.
So Zara is, she's a beautiful girl also. She's very adamant. She's one of those strong girls, you know, of course, the first one. Okay, people say that children learn the word no as a first word, but that was not Jan's first word, but it was Zara's first word. No. I don't want it. I don't want it. Move on. And she's strong character, you know. But there she is. She's growing. She's very, of course, she follows in her sister's footsteps. Again, when children stay together, they just follow each other. We're still trying to identify who she really is, because I feel that she's very doing what her sister does, not what she wants to do. So that is now the struggle. That's where we are at now. I think also when she gets to go to school, when that happens, she'll see other children and see that this child can do this, I can also do something different. So right now, I'd say she's, you know, if we go to the kitchen, she's right there with us. If we go to wherever, she's right there with us. But yeah, she's a lovely, lovely child. Very gentle. She's very strong-headed, but in treating other people, she's the one who will always come and hug and say sorry. She's the one who will cry when you're crying. You know,
Very empathetic, yeah.
That's the thing. That's the girl. Yeah, that's our girl now.
Did you face a lot of questions? Joy didn't have a child, Jana, but today she has a child. How did that? Were there?
But who? Let's look at it this way. The people who need to know are, for instance, my family, my parents, my siblings, and my aunties and uncles, you know, just that, yeah. Those ones, you tell them beforehand. You tell them, hey, I'm going to adopt. So what's up, guys? Support, yes, 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 you know. And then when the second child is coming, say, oh, by the way, now I have a second child. So I didn't wait for them to find out. It's me to tell you, to say, hey guys, now there's a second child. Her name is Zara Leland. With a good photo, you know, they send WhatsApp, bless WhatsApp. You send a very good photo, you know, with her names right there and, you know, a brief profile, as you would say, the profile of a 6-month-old, yeah? Just, you know, that. So people know. You give them their time, and anyway, as it has always been, the aunties come to receive children. My aunties came to receive my children. When Jan came home, we had been advised that, you know, so that you can bond with a child, don't make a party or what. I had no party. But by the end of the day, all my aunties, and they don't stay in Nairobi, were in my house. They come, as in, nobody planned, nobody told the other. It's the way you say, because I remember Jan came home on a Thursday. So I told guys, oh, Jan is home now, you know, Jan is home, because we'd all been waiting. But on Saturday morning, you know, they start cooking rice, 2 cups. Then you're like, okay, you and Misha, now let's add another 2 cups. So at the end of the day, you had a party without planning a party. Because everybody was coming from their areas and, you know, they're like, yeah, we've come to, and the question they kept on asking was, if you'd given birth in hospital, would we not have come? I'm like, yeah, so what's a big deal? Tunakuja. Once your family accepts you, I have not seen any difference. I have not seen anybody slight my kids. I've not seen anybody say anything, you know. They've been loving aunties and uncles, grandparents, you know. Yeah. And that's really it. No, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I think I'm done. The need is there, but you have also to be very realistic. Yeah, pragmatic. You don't want a lot of, you know, the idea is not to disadvantage children, so I can manage to for now. Yeah.
What advice would you give parents who are maybe on the fence, wondering if maybe
this is it for them?
Yeah.
If you're on the fence, then get off the fence. You'll be electrocuted. Go ahead and adopt. It's nice. It gives you a family. And to the child, it gives them a sense of belonging. They know that they can call on mom, they can call on their brother, sister, cousin, auntie. And that is important for everybody. I would advise them to just start the process. Just planting, get moving, adopt if you can. The kids will come home, they'll be happier. And there's a lot of benefit, not just for the child, not just for you, the parent, but even for Kenya. the kids are there, and nobody's bringing the kids home. We know from studies and from even experience that the best place for a child to grow is in a family setting. And that is why you can even see the children homes that have been left, they're being formed into homes, kind of. We're even calling them children homes. No longer orphanages, no longer institutes, they're children homes, you know. And because then they form as a family. Because the question comes, when these children turn 18, and since you're no longer a child, you're an adult, then you're let loose. You don't have a support system. You don't have brothers to call. You don't have, you know, you don't have family. And family really is important. So if we as Kenyans can adopt more, it would also help. You know, of course, I also believe that adoption is not for everybody. It's a calling. It's a calling. So they that have been called to adopt, just take it up. So yes, I would say for these parents who are on the fence, please visit an adoption agency. There are about 6 or so in the country. Get to adopt. Start the process. Get the advice of the social workers that you meet there, and move on. You'll have an addition to your family.
Thank you, Joy.
You're welcome.